Part 13. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 121. Chapter 121 Insult. Ling Chu really didn't expect that Mrs. Yang would ask her to help search for Liu's money. She hasn't decided yet whether she wants to help. The system has triggered the task first. Ding. Requested task detected. Please host, be sure to complete the task, get the energy stone, and help the system repair. After glancing at the system, Ling Chu agreed to Mrs. Yang's request. Seeing the two of them going into the house, Ms. Lu was very angry, but she was thankful that she usually hid things tightly. She was not worried that the Taoist nun would be able to find out her money. Mrs. Yang took Ling Chu into Mrs. Liu's house. Except for a few daily necessities, she didn't see anything valuable inside. Mrs. Yang reached out and rummaged around on the dressing table. Apart from a few old silver jewelry, she only found a dozen taels of silver in the dowry. A woman who followed to watch the fun sighed and said, "It seems that Ms. Lu is not lying. She is a widow with a child and no income. It seems that her life is not easy." Mrs. Yang frowned and said, "Ms. Lu shouldn't have this little thing left. Last month I was looking for the child and happened to meet her. Mrs. Lu was worried that I was exhausted. After sending me back to Yang's house, she complained to me that life was difficult. I gave her 100 taels of silver at that time. Seeing that she couldn't put down my golden hair and face, I gave it to her casually. Ever since Ngir's accident happened, I have been searching outside every day, thinking that my son is gone and I don't want to live anymore. There is no use keeping the extravagant wealth. In the past 6 months, I have given a lot of money to Lu. I also gave her all the clothes and accessories she liked. Mrs. Yang's father and brother were both good at business and gave her a lot of dowry. Mrs. Lu said she cared about her, but in fact she was just interested in her dowry money. After hearing what Mrs. Yang said, the woman who just spoke shut up and did not dare to say anything. Mrs. Lu usually wears ordinary clothes and often says that she is living a difficult life as a widow. It turns out that she is lying to them. Seeing that Mrs. Yang didn't find anything valuable, Ling Chu took out the copper coins and pretended to calculate, but secretly opened the system to scan. Ling Chu pointed to the walnut cabinet in the inner room and said to Mrs. Yang, "Look for this cabinet." The cabinet door was opened, and there were several quilts stuffed inside. An enthusiastic woman helped Mrs. Yang move out all the quilts, but found nothing valuable. While they were puzzled, Ling Chu took out a small hammer and pried open the upper right corner of the cabinet. He took out a long, flat black wooden box from inside. Mrs. Yang took it and opened it. Some people couldn't help but exclaimed, "Oh, so many banknotes." Even Ling Chu couldn't help but be surprised. There were at least 1,000 taels of silver notes in this box. Mrs. Yang immediately said gratefully, "Thank you so much, fairy lady. I have to trouble you to find the head and face of the jewelry as well." Ling Chu glanced at Mrs. Yang and handed her one of the washed faded quilts. "You can unwrap this quilt first. Tear down the quilt." Mrs. Yang and the women watching the excitement were equally puzzled. Seeing Ling Chu didn't look like he was joking. Although Mrs. Yang was puzzled, she turned around and found the scissors. The quilt was opened, and after some rummaging, a few oily paper packets were found inside. There were more than 3,000 taels of silver notes. After taking off the quilt, Ling Chu turned around and walked to the wooden bed. He first moved the quilt away from the bed, and then moved the bed. Pick up a small hammer and hit the exposed floor tiles under the bed with your hand. After a ping-pong banging, the floor tiles were smashed. Two enthusiastic women came over and dug out the bricks, revealing a large box. This Lu family, a widow, actually has so many jewelry. The women were surprised, but Mrs. Yang was not surprised by this box of jewelry. Some of these jewelry were given as dowries by my mother and I to Mrs. Liu, and some of them were taken away from me one after another over the years. The women couldn't help but shake their heads. It's true that people's hearts are so weak that snakes can swallow elephants. Tisk tisk, if someone is willing to give me so much money, I will definitely treat her as an ancestor. The Liu family got so much money from Mrs. Yang, not only was she not satisfied, but she also resented Mrs. Yang and her mother for not being good enough to her. She was so vicious that she even wanted to burn Mrs. Yang's son. It's no wonder that Mrs. Yang was angry and wanted to take everything back. All valuable things were found, and several people from Lingchu helped Mrs. Yang carry out the boxes. Ms. Liu originally thought that her belongings were hidden well enough, but she didn't expect that not a single thing was left behind, and all of them were found. She immediately scolded Lingchu with a ferocious expression. "You are a Taoist nun, you are young, you have a charming face, you can tell at a glance that you are not a serious Taoist nun. Who are your parents? How come they don't care about you? Do I still want you to climb a high branch with this charming face? And who is your master? You are not allowed to stay in the temple to practice, but you are allowed to go out and cheat. It seems that your master is not a good person. Shut up." Listening to Mrs. Liu's abuse, Mrs. Yang became so angry that she wanted to stop her. Ling Chu's face quickly turned cold, and the small hammer in his hand hit Liu's mouth. Liu, who was cursing vigorously, immediately let out a scream. 3 front teeth, mixed with blood, fell to the ground. From the nose down, the lips and the entire chin quickly became red and swollen. Ms. Liu was so painful that her nose was filled with tears, but she did not dare to speak any more. She watched the Taoist nun walking towards her step by step with a look of horror. Ling Chu looked at Mrs. Liu with cold eyes. She couldn't bear to call her coquettish and bluffing, and she dared to insult her master. Since she was little, if she had not been carefully protected by her master, she would have died long ago. In Ling Chu's heart, her master was more important than her parents. How could she tolerate such insults from Mrs. Liu? If it weren't for the fact that she couldn't kill in public, she would have just smashed Liu's head with a hammer. Ling Chu's hammer not only frightened everyone, but even the 2 puppet souls, one big and one small, looked at her with fear. Ling Chu bent down to pick up the small hammer. Ms. Liu thought that the Taoist nun was going to hit her, so she was so frightened that she started struggling desperately. But she was still tied to the tree with a rope, and she couldn't break free at all. Just when she thought this Taoist nun was going to attack her again, she found that she was talking to herself in the empty air. "Are you Li Humu? Is this your son?" Ling Chu ignored her and looked up and down at the 2 puppet souls in front of him, one big and one small. Hearing her words, Mrs. Liu was so shocked that she even forgot to struggle, and glanced around suspiciously. Li Humu's puppet soul was originally glaring at Mrs. Liu with a look of resentment. When he realized that the Taoist nun in front of him was talking to him, he turned around with a numb expression. It's the end of the month, and the competition on the monthly vote list has been fierce recently, causing the rankings on various lists to keep falling. I'm worried. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 122. Ling Chu saw that he didn't speak, so he had to ask again, "You are Mr. Liu's husband Li Humu? Is this your son?" Li Humu looked at her straightly, and after a long while, he said one word in a hoarse voice, "Yes." Ling Chu was not surprised by this. When she saw the little puppet that was burned beyond recognition, she had already guessed that it was Liu's son. When Ling Chu saw Li Humu turning his head and glaring at Mrs. Liu with resentment, he couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. "Do you have any last wishes? As long as you don't commit murder or arson, I can help you fulfill it." Li Humu quickly turned his head, his face shining with hope. "Really?" Although his voice was hoarse, it was filled with a strong sense of expectation. Ling Chu nodded, I never lie to people, oh, and I don't lie to puppets either. After a pause, Ling Chu added, if you have a last wish, I can help you fulfill it, but my help will not be in vain. If there are bones to be buried, 5 taels of silver. The Feng Shui treasure land is more expensive, with a minimum starting price of 20 taels. If you want the talisman formation, you will have to pay more. We can also send you to the underworld for reincarnation, the price will be calculated separately. A bright light flashed in Li Humu's eyes, and he immediately raised his hand and pointed at Mrs. Lu, I want Lu Jianling to pay for the lives of my father and son. To pay for your life? Or father and son? Her son was burned to death by Mrs. Lu. Li Humu resented her and wanted her to pay for his son's life. Ling Chu could understand this. How can we say that we are paying for the lives of father and son? Didn't Mrs. Lu say that her husband died of a sudden illness? Ling Chu asked tentatively, is there another hidden reason behind your death? Li Humu pointed a finger at Mrs. Lu resentfully, I was poisoned to death by this with arsenic. Ling Chu's eyes widened in surprise. Xiangwu, I am willing to pay you 100 taels. Can you help me expose the true face of Lu? I want her to get the retribution she deserves. Exposing Liu's true identity of poisoning her husband is not a violation of Ling Chu's principles. She helped Li Humu fulfill his last wish. She could not only earn money, but also receive merit rewards. Ling Chu had no reason to refuse. Ms. Lu, you poisoned your husband and burned your son to death, and now they are back to seek your life. Lu Jianling was already uneasy when she saw Ling Chu muttering into the deserted air, and now she was even more flustered and uneasy when she heard her words. You Taoist nun, don't even think about spitting blood. My husband will die of a sudden illness. Really? But Li Humu said personally that you poisoned him to death with a bowl of arsenic. As soon as Ling Chu said these words, everyone was shocked. Mrs. Yang frowned, Xiangwu, is what you said true? Ling Chu nodded, this is what Li Humu said himself. He is now with Mrs. Lu. Mrs. Yang looked guilty. It was she and her mother who had harmed Li Humu. I saw that he had a good personality and was honest and responsible, so I thought of introducing Mrs. Lu to him. I didn't expect Mrs. Lu to be so cruel, even to her own husband. Ms. Liu's heart tightened, and she retorted with a stern expression, I didn't. It's you, the Taoist nun, who is wrongly accusing me. Ling Chu sneered, did I wrong you? Didn't you fall in love with the wealthy businessman surnamed Li who came to Beijing from other places, covet his money, and then colluded with him into an affair, but Li Humu exposed your adultery? On the surface, he cried and repented, and after asking for forgiveness from Li Humu, he secretly put arsenic in the cold medicine he drank and poisoned him to death? Ms. Liu's face turned pale with shock. How could this Taoist nun know these things? She obviously did this secretly, and no one noticed it at all. Lu tried her best to calm herself down. She couldn't get into trouble. Now that Li Humu was dead, even if the Taoist nun guessed that she poisoned him, she couldn't do anything to her. Ling Chu saw her eyes rolling around and sneered, do you think this was done covertly and there is no evidence to prove that you poisoned her? Although Mrs. Lu did not respond to her words, her expression was clearly that of confidence. Unexpectedly, as soon as Ling Chu opened her mouth, she poured a bucket of ice water on her. The arsenic you poisoned Li Humu to death was bought from Baiko Pavilion Medical Center. Li Humu didn't finish the bowl of wind-cold medicine that you poisoned with arsenic. There was a little left, and you buried it together with the bowl. Under an apricot tree in your backyard. These are all evidences. As long as they are dug out and examined by a doctor, you will know. Following Ling Chu's words, Liu's heart kept sinking. But she still gritted her teeth and refused to admit it, I have been away from the Li family for more than half a year. Who knows if you buried the medicine and bowl there deliberately to frame me? You still want to make excuses now? Although Li Humu's body has been buried, if his tribe knew that he was poisoned to death, they would not ignore the matter. As long as you find a prisoner, open Li Humu's coffin and examine it, you will know whether I have wronged you or not. This time Mrs. Lu shut her mouth tightly and did not dare to say anything more. After she poisoned Li Humu to death, she told the public that he was seriously ill. But his people did not believe it. Mrs. Lu was worried that Li Humu's tribe would find a widower to perform an autopsy on him, so she hurriedly sold all the valuable things in her home and secretly took her son to Beijing to seek refuge with Mrs. Yang. It was only at this moment, after losing everything, that Ms. Lu began to regret. Although her family was poor, since she met Mrs. Yang, she often gave her clothes, jewelry, and money because of her generosity, and often took her to stay at N's house. Lu had almost no shortage of money. But after she married Li Humu, Mrs. Yang also married into Kyoto. Because she was far away, she could no longer get any benefits from Mrs. Yang as before. Although Li Humu owns a grocery store, his income is not very large. As a result, Mr. Lu gradually became dissatisfied with the peaceful life of being rich and wealthy. Coupled with the fact that Li Humu was busy in the shop all day long, Mrs. Lu hooked up with a wealthy businessman who came to Beijing from other places. The wealthy businessman not only treated her generously, but also sweetly said that he would buy her a 5-seater house and then marry her. Ms. Lu was stunned by his sweet words, and by accident, her affair was revealed by Li Humu. She cried bitterly and confessed. Although Li Humu was unhappy, he still chose to forgive because she had given him a son. However, he didn't know that Mrs. Lu was determined to marry the wealthy businessman, so she bought arsenic privately and mixed it into his cold medicine. Li Humu saw that Mrs. Lu had been very attentive to him in those days, and even made medicine for him with his own hands. He thought that she had sincerely repented, and felt very comforted. But what he didn't expect was that Mrs. Lu gave him not only wind-cold medicine, but also a bowl of arsenic. After poisoning Li Humu to death, Mrs. Lu was afraid that his tribe would be suspicious, so she hurriedly buried him, sold her family property, and planned to find the wealthy businessman. Unexpectedly, after the wealthy businessman saw that his affair with Lu was exposed, he was worried about being retaliated by Li Humu, so he fled Kyoto long ago. Although Mrs. Lu was angry, she didn't know where the wealthy businessman's home was. In desperation, he could only take his son to Beijing to seek refuge with Mrs. Yang. 1145 Level 14 Protected Waste, 353-7333, Yunziwa Logo Yu, Ixi, Ji Chai, Xiayan, the heartbeat on the left side, Ji Xiao Xiao Chang Sheng, Li Huan Qing, Lan Yunhong, 11 Ming, Nuya Akridine, Enlightenment, Waiting for You with a Smile, Prose. BA, Mu Fengzi, 854-729, China Fuzii, Liu Yana, Feng Mo Boy. 20210127175731838 vote. Although I can't compete in the monthly vote list, there are people like you. Support, my heart feels so warm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Say important things 3 times. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 123. Chapter 123 The Iron Mouth is cut off. Even though Ms. Lu didn't want to admit that she had poisoned her husband, the Taoist nun knew all about what she had done. Even if she wanted to deny it, she couldn't. Hearing that Ling Chu was going to hand her over to Dali Temple, Ms. Lu was so devastated that her intestines turned green. After she married Li Humu, Although her life was not very rich, Li Humu devoted all his attention to the shop in order to earn more money for her to spend. After 4 years of marriage, he treated her wholeheartedly, and after she gave birth to her son, she was not even asked to do much housework. Even though he discovered her affair with the wealthy businessman, he still forgave her. He treated her so well, so how could she be so obsessed with believing the lies of the wealthy businessman named Li that he would marry her as his wife? If she had not poisoned him with arsenic, their family of 3 would still be living happily together today, and her son would not have died a tragic death. Lu regretted and cried bitterly, but no one sympathized with her. There are some mistakes that cannot be made. If you make a mistake, there is no turning back. Ling Chu planned to send people to send the Lu family to Dali Temple, and then ask people to notify Li Humu's clan members. But this matter was taken over by Mrs. Yang. Mrs. Yang felt that she had caused Li Humu to be harmed. If she and her mother had not chosen Li Humu as Lu Qinling's husband, he would not have been poisoned to death. Mrs. Yang felt guilty. Whether it was for Li Humu or for her son, she would hand over Mrs. Lu to Dali Temple so that she could receive the retribution she deserved. Since Li Humu's son is still buried in the Yang family's ancestral grave, Mrs. Yang will also notify Li Humu's clan members to come over, take Brother Ping's body back and bury it next to Li Humu's grave. Seeing that Mrs. Lu was taken away to Dali Temple, Li Humu felt grateful, took his son and knelt down to Ling Chu. Thank you to Fairy Ant for helping me expose Liu's crime. I promised Fairy Ant the reward. I will entrust my dream to my clan uncle and ask him to send the banknote to you. She deserved the reward, and Ling Chu did not refuse. However, there is no need to give 100 taels, 10 taels is enough. Li Humu's ghost shook his head resolutely. As a man, you must keep your word. Even though I have become a puppet now, I can't regret what I just said. Xiang, you don't have to feel ashamed. If it weren't for you, no one would know the identity of my son. His body would be regarded as Mrs. Yang's son and buried in the Yang family's ancestral grave. Now that his bones have the opportunity to be buried back in the ancestral grave of my Li family, it's all thanks to you. As for the money matter, I still had a sum of money left in the hands of my uncle earlier. Now that my son and I are dead, there is no use keeping that money. Since I said I would give you 100 taels as a reward, I would like to ask Fairy Lady not to refuse. Although I am already dead, I don't want to be a ghost who breaks my promise. Li Humu said this. Ling Chu did not refuse. Knowing that Li Humu still had to wait for the judgment against Lu in Dali Temple, Ling Chu asked him to wait until the matter was settled, and then she would do something to send the ghosts of their father and son to the underworld to wait for reincarnation. Ling Chu saw that Li Humu's son was burned beyond recognition, so he lit a stick of rhinoceros incense for him. Burning this incense can make his soul return to its original appearance, and he can maintain it even if he goes to the underworld. Originally, Li Humu felt guilty and distressed when he saw his son burned to death by Liu's vicious mother. Now that he saw that this Taoist nun had restored his appearance, he was immediately overjoyed. Without saying a word, he pulled his son to kneel down towards Ling Chu and kowtowed to him. This trip, I helped Mrs. Yang find her son. The jade bracelet as a thank you gift can help repair the system. He also helped Li Humu's puppet fulfill his last wish and received the merits rewarded by the system. Ling Chu was in a good mood. After crossing over, she has been busy all the time, but fortunately her soul is getting better and better with this body. After returning to Ling Mansion, it was rare for me to have a good sleep. Woke up the next day, finished the meal slowly, and Ling Chu asked Xiaji to drive her carriage to Yuja. The man who told fortune yesterday, his wife will give birth to a child today. Ling Chu knew that the man would definitely bring her the hexagram gold and red eggs. What she values is not the hexagram gold, but the red eggs. Nowadays, after a woman gives birth to a child, she will boil some red eggs at home and give them to neighbors, relatives and friends as a sign of good news. And red eggs also represent sending children and blessings, which is auspicious and festive. Of course what Ling Chu wants is not to give birth to a child, after all, she is not married yet. What Ling Chu wants is the blessing and auspiciousness, which is also good for her body. When he arrived at Yuja, he was still next to the tea house yesterday. After placing everything, Ling Chu leaned against the wall again and closed his eyes to meditate. Not long after, there was a sound of footsteps not far away. As soon as Ling Chu opened her eyes, she saw the man who asked her for fortune-telling yesterday. Immediately smiled and said, "Congratulations, you are blessed with 2 daughters." Hearing Ling Chu's congratulations, the man looked over in surprise. How did this Taoist nun know that his wife gave birth to twin daughters before he even opened his mouth? But then he thought of the divination he had made yesterday, and the man felt relieved. Place the 2 red eggs in his hands respectfully on the table in front of Ling Chu. He took out another 100 coins from his pocket and handed it over. "Xiangwu, this is yesterday's hexagram gold." This man was in a mood that was both happy and worried. Happily, his wife gave birth to twin daughters for him early this morning. Originally, I asked this Taoist nun for fortune-telling yesterday, saying that his wife would give birth prematurely today, and that he would be destined to have 5 daughters. He felt that this Taoist nun was a liar who had no ability and only knew how to cheat. Unexpectedly, it turns out that he has blind eyes and cannot recognize Taishan. She is a straight-talking fairy girl. Just thinking that the Taoist nun had given him the fate of having no children in his life yesterday made him feel disappointed. He came here today. In addition to giving him gold and red eggs, he also wanted the Taoist nun to tell him whether he would never be able to have a son in this life. But before he opened his mouth, the Taoist nun actually knew what he was thinking. Something will occur if it belongs to your life, if not, do not push it. The man understood what the Taoist nun said. Disappointment immediately came to my mind. Ling Chu could also understand his desire for a son. For the sake of the red eggs, she tried to persuade her a little more. "Although you don't have any sons in this life, you have raised 5 daughters with your heart, and you will still enjoy endless blessings in the future. Your life will not be worse than that of families with sons." After hearing what the Taoist nun said, the man was still disappointed, but he could only accept it. Forget it, his wife has already given him 5 daughters, and he cannot afford to raise more. This Taoist divination is so effective that he should believe that even if he does not have a son, he will still enjoy endless blessings. Thinking of the prediction made by his companion yesterday, the man's heart suddenly tightened. "Xiangwu, my companion yesterday was really contaminated with dirt and will die soon. It's the end of the month, the competition is too fierce, please vote. I hope you won't be at the bottom. Come on, dear friends." End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 124. Chapter 124. The hexagram comes true. Ling Chu glanced at the other party lightly and nodded, "That's right." The man's eyebrows twitched. Originally, he didn't believe in such illusory things, but the fortune the Taoist nun told him yesterday came true today. What if his companion's prediction yesterday also comes true? He felt that this kind of thing would rather be believed than believed. "Xiangwu, my brother Su Gao is, the companion you gave him fortune-telling yesterday. Can you see if you can help him resolve his calamity? He is still young, he just got married half a year ago, and now his wife is just pregnant. If something happens to Su Gao, his wife and parents at home may not be able to bear the blow." Ling Chu frowned. Although life and death were determined by fate, since the man asked, she had no choice but to do nothing. After thinking for a while, he casually took out a talisman and handed it over. "This is the peace talisman. Keep it close to your body. But let me explain first that this talisman can protect you for a while but not for a lifetime. His situation is very serious. If the fundamental problem is not solved, he still can't escape death. This man's name is Zhou Cheng. When he saw Ling Chu giving him the peace talisman, he hurriedly took it with both hands respectfully. "Thank you so much, fairy lady. I will definitely persuade him well and make him take it seriously when I get back." Zhou Cheng also knows the rules and knows that this peace talisman cannot be taken for free. "Xianggu, how much do you need to pay for this peace talisman? Just give it as you see." Looking at it. "How much should this be given?" Zhou Cheng thought for a while, and he remembered that the peace talisman of Kongxuguan was 10 copper coins each. This Taoist nun's fortune-telling was more expensive than that of Kongxuguan, so he couldn't afford less of this peace talisman. After hesitating for a while, Zhou Cheng took out 20 copper coins and placed them on the table. Ling Chu didn't mind it either. Her safety talisman only treated the symptoms but not the root cause, and it was inappropriate to charge too much money. Zhou Cheng felt relieved when he saw her accepting the copper plate. After thanking Ling Chu, he immediately went to Su Gao with the peace charm. "Su family." Seeing Zhou Cheng come to him with a red egg, Su Gao's eyes widened in shock. He didn't care about congratulations at all and blurted out, "You gave me red eggs. Could it be that your wife has already given birth?" Zhou Cheng nodded. "Yes, my wife was premature and gave birth to twin girls to me early this morning." Su Gao was surprised again. "Twin girls? Then doesn't Zhou Cheng have 5 daughters?" Su Gao suddenly remembered the divination that the Taoist aunt had predicted yesterday. The eyelids just twitched. Coincidence, it must be a coincidence. Su Gao comforted himself in his heart and swallowed his saliva after a while. Remembering that I haven't congratulated Zhou Cheng yet, I quickly put on a smile and said, "Brother, congratulations to you. You have 2 children in one. It's really yours. What a blessing." Zhou Cheng also raised a smile and laughed proudly. "I'm not bragging. Most people can't envy my blessing." Su Gao casually patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, yes, you are very lucky. But I am not bad either. My wife is already 3 months pregnant, and I will soon be a father." The 2 brothers teased each other for a while. Zhou Cheng then took out the peace talisman and handed it over. "This is the peace talisman I just begged from the Taoist nun yesterday. Remember to keep it close to your body." Su Gao frowned. I don't want this thing. "Brother Zhou, that Taoist nun is so young. Even if she is not a swindler, she doesn't have any real ability. How can that hexagram be taken seriously?" Zhou Cheng did not take back the peace talisman, but stuffed it directly into him. "I think the Taoist nun's hexagram is efficacious. Besides, it is better to believe that it exists than to believe that it does not exist. This peace talisman is specially made for you by me. If you ask for it, you should keep it close to you." Hearing that Zhou Cheng had specially requested this peace charm for him and that it was delivered to his home, Su Gao could no longer refuse. Seeing that he didn't take out the talisman, Zhou Cheng said with a serious expression, "But the Taoist nun said that this peace talisman can be protected for a while, but not for a lifetime. The problem you have is very serious and must be solved fundamentally before it can be resolved. The fate of you. Su Gao, I think you'd better pay more attention to it. Go find the Taoist nun, and let her find a way to help you resolve it. To avoid regret later if something goes wrong." "Okay, I'll find her another day." Su Gao also knew that Zhou Cheng was doing it for his own good and didn't want to refute his kindness. However, although he agreed with his words, he actually didn't take it seriously in his heart. Zhou Cheng felt relieved when he saw that he agreed. "Then I'll leave first. I have to go back and take care of my wife and 2 daughters. See you later." Su Gao knew that he was busy, so he didn't keep him and just sent him out. On Ling Chu's side, after Zhou Cheng left with the peace charm, several people immediately gathered around him. She was talking to Zhou Cheng just now, and she did not avoid anyone. Presumably these people saw that her fortune-telling was effective and wanted to come over and join in the fun. Seeing that everyone wanted to come first, Ling Chu said quietly, 3 hexagrams a day, 1 hexagram 100 pieces. Come here after you have thought about it, there is no need to fight. As soon as the words were spoken, everyone paused. Some people couldn't help but gasped, you Taoist nun is too evil-minded. The Taoist priest of Kongsugwan only received 20 coins for a hexagram, but you actually asked for 100 coins. What's the difference between this and robbing money? Ling Chu took out the bamboo tube and took a sip of cold boiled water. After moistening his throat, he said casually, it's okay if it's expensive. Don't force it. Although she sets up a stall to tell fortunes, she can't tell everyone's fortunes. She has to pay attention to fate. One woman saw her carelessness and felt that she was not enthusiastic enough and the price was too high, so she could only leave in frustration. Ling Chu didn't care. He put away the bamboo tube and leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes and concentrating. She thought these people thought the price was too high and didn't want to calculate it. Unexpectedly, as soon as his eyes closed, a man came over, took out 100 coins, slapped it on the table, and said, help me tell my fortune. Hearing the commotion, Ling Chu opened his eyes and glanced at the other party, and asked quietly, what do you want to do? Calculating fortune. Ling Chu first pushed the copper plate aside with a small hammer, and then said, stretch out your hand. The man silently stretched out his hand, but said nothing. He planned to see how much the Taoist nun could calculate. Ling Chu showed him his palm and then his face. The treasury is full and you will have a lot of windfall, but between your eyebrows, not only are there many hairs, but also many lines, and the seal is deep and it is difficult to keep the money. It is easy for you to get money every day, but you cannot keep it. The man looked surprised. This Taoist nun was really smart. She could make the right guess just by looking at her casually. He likes to gamble. Others lose 9 times out of 10, but he wins more than he loses. It's just that he can't always keep the money he wins. He often thinks it's gone for various reasons as soon as he wins it. Yes, the fairy is right. But is there any way to solve my situation? Do you want to do something or hire a talisman that can protect money? I am willing to pay any amount of money. There are money-keeping charms, but they are meant to keep money earned in a serious way. Windfalls cannot be kept, and I advise you not to think about keeping those windfalls. It will do you no good. Xiaoling A, Wengzhang Ch, Mingmengs Cat, 2023050907355218, Shadow, Passing Wind 888, 2019060501465029, WX Sheep, Exquisite Transparent Heart. AE, Heartbeat on the left, Cub who finds social trouble, National 114,514 Level Protected Waist, Why We Grow Old, Chen, 20210127175731831838, Pros. BA, Greedy Knight, 20210301106557590454, 202106210014025551. 202106210014025551. 2023030619583531 Thornhart 828. 2023060162165886C20230715743319. Thank you all book friends for your votes. Thanks for your support. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 125. The man frowned. Why? You have a body with a lot of wealth and a weak body. Although you cannot keep the windfall you get, it is actually good for your health. The man looks weird. What's the benefit if he can't keep the money? Where did this Taoist nun come from to show off and deceive here? Ling Chu knew what he was thinking as soon as he looked at his face. I sighed in my heart, these days, it's really getting harder and harder to tell the truth. I didn't want to pay any more attention to it, but after thinking about accepting this person's fortune, I still had to say what needed to be said. As the saying goes, a small virtue is not enough to carry things. Your destiny is to have too much wealth and a weak body. Therefore, if there are too many windfalls, you will not be able to bear such great blessings, and you will end your life. But if all the windfall money you get is dispersed, it won't have much impact on your body. The man understood what Ling Chu said. This means that if the money he won through gambling is not spent, it will affect his lifespan. This Taoist nun is simply talking nonsense. He has never heard that people who have too much money will die. Growing up, all he knew was that he would die if he had no money. It was really unlucky. He originally wanted to ask this Taoist nun for a wealth protection charm or something, so that he could keep the money he won. Who would have thought that I would encounter such a bluffing and deceitful person? Him wasted 100 pennies in vain. Forget it, he should go to the Taoist priest of Kongsugwan to find a solution. The man had a dark face and walked away with his sleeves waving. Ling Chu wasn't upset either, she had already said what needed to be said. As for whether this person will listen or not, it is not up to her to decide. An aunt next to her had been paying attention to Ling Chu's fortune-telling, and when she saw the man walking away with a dark face, she couldn't help but frown. Is this Taoist girl accurate? I originally heard that the man who gave me the red egg said that the divination of the Taoist aunt was efficacious, but now I am not sure again. The aunt wanted to go to Kongsugwan, but with her old arms and legs, she really didn't want to walk such a long way. She didn't have the time again, and her grandson at home was still waiting for her to take home. After hesitating for a while, the aunt walked to Ling Chu's stall, took out 100 coins and handed it over. Can I ask Taoist nun to tell me my fortune? This aunt has a good attitude, and Ling Chu also showed a smile. Which aspect does it count? The aunt sighed, with a worried look on her face, I don't ask for money, and I don't care about my future. I don't know what's going on recently, but I always feel like everything is not going well. Ling Chu raised his eyebrows but said nothing, listening to what the aunt continued. Recently, I've been walking well on the road, but I either sprained my foot or stepped on dog poop. When cooking, I either broke pots or smashed bowls. When it came time to stir fry, the spatula was in good condition, but it would fall apart after just a few stir fries. Broken. It was not easy to finish the dish, but when I turned around, it was knocked to the ground. Also, as soon as the washed clothes were hung up to dry, birds pooped them on them. Things like this happen every 3 days. Although it's not a big deal, it's enough to give me a headache. If my daughter-in-law hadn't been married into my family for several years and we knew each other fairly well, she would probably have suspected that I, the mother-in-law, had some dissatisfaction and was using these things to cause trouble for her. Sighed, the aunt asked hopefully, dare I ask fairy girl, what kind of bad luck have I got? Is there any way to resolve it? Ling Chu was surprised when he heard this. No wonder the aunt Yintang had a trace of black energy. Fortunately, the black energy was only a slight trace, not serious. Took out the copper coins and the turtle shell, and asked the aunt for her birthday and birth date. Ling Chu gave her a fortune. According to the hexagrams, your fortune has been a bit low recently. This situation should have lasted for a month, right? But don't worry, this situation will pass in a few days. Hearing what the Taoist nun said, the aunt felt relieved. Although it was only a small matter, it would inevitably make her upset over a long period of time. Seeing Ling Chu frowning and staring at the hexagram, the aunt's heart started to worry again. Xiangwu, but what else is wrong? Ling Chu nodded, according to the hexagrams, you will face a disaster in about 2 days. But it's not serious. Just remember to avoid high places. Auntie's heart tightened, a disaster? Although the Taoist nun said it wasn't serious, she didn't want anything to happen to her old arms and legs. Fairy Nun, you said you can just avoid high places? But I'm worried that I'm getting older and won't be able to remember it when I get busy. Is there any way to resolve this disaster? Do you want to do some rituals or something? Ling Chu can also understand Auntie's worry. Your problem is not big and there is no need to do anything. If you are worried, just buy a peace charm and keep it with you. The aunt looked surprised. She originally thought that she would have to spend a sum of money to resolve this disaster, but she didn't expect that she only needed to buy a peace charm. Okay, thank you for your help. The aunt was overjoyed and took out 20 coins and handed it over. After taking the peace talisman, the aunt immediately put it close to her body and then left with a look of peace of mind. As soon as the lady left, a man not far away hurried towards Ling Chu's stall. Miss Ling, I finally found you. Ling Chu looked surprised when he saw the person coming, Zhou Wu. Zhou Wu smiled shyly and scratched his head. It's me, Miss Ling. Seeing Ling Chu wearing a Taoist robe, Zhou Wu quickly changed his words. Xiangwu, can I ask you a favor? What's the matter? I want to ask you to help me collect my debt. Debt collection, tell me, what exactly is going on? It's like this. I once lent 200 taels to Uncle Chen from my neighbor. I originally agreed that the money would be returned to me in half a year. But it has been a year and a half now, and I have asked for it several times, but he has been unwilling to give it back to me. My mother has been seriously ill recently, and the family really can't afford any money. In desperation, I went to Uncle Chen again to ask for it. Unexpectedly, he was still unwilling to pay back the money, and kept saying that his family could not afford the money. But I know he is lying. But my mother's illness really cannot be delayed. Fairy Aunt, your ability to find hidden silver is great. After thinking about it, I can only come to you for help. Ever since he saw Ling Chu's ability to find hidden silver at Lu Dongluo's house, Zhou Wu had always remembered it deeply. Since then, he has been paying attention to Miss Ling. Recently, he heard that she was setting up a stall in U Street, so he came over. Although he told the matter, Zhou Wu was not sure whether Ling Chu was willing to help. To show his sincerity, Zhou Wu followed up and said, regardless of whether I can recover the debt or not, I will give the fairy a reward of 10 taels. Can it be done? Ling Chu would not miss this opportunity to make money. Seeing Zhou Wu's pained expression, Ling Chu smiled and said, for the sake of our acquaintance, if I help you get the money, you can pay me 5 taels. Don't worry, if you can't get it back, you won't receive any money. Zhou Wu didn't expect that Miss Ling was so easy to talk to, and was instantly overjoyed. After putting away the things for the stall and handing them over to Xiaoji, Ling Chu followed Zhou Wu to Chen Daohi's house. Ling Chu frowned when he saw the dilapidated house in front of him. Will today's debt collection trip be a bit suspenseful? Ranked 200 on the monthly vote list. Recommended vote ranking 1392. Crying, sad, and don't want to say anything, I'd better continue typing. Before leaving, can I ask for a ticket to comfort me? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 126. In front of Ling Chu was a 3-room shabby mud house. The yard is surrounded by a wooden fence, and 7 or 8 chickens are pecking in the yard. Looking at this situation, Ling Chu was not sure whether he could complete the debt collection mission this time. He always felt a bit mysterious. Uncle Chen, Uncle Chen. Zhou Wu shouted several times through the wooden fence, but no one answered. Perhaps it was the movement here that alerted the neighbors. An ant in an earthy blue gown came out of the house opposite. Zhou Wu, are you here to collect debt again? Although the lady was asking Zhou Wu, her eyes were still curiously looking at Ling Chu, who was wearing Taoist robes. Zhou Wu sighed, frowned, and smiled bitterly. Recently, my mother has been ill and unable to get out of bed, and the family really can't come up with any money. I can only come to Uncle Chen again to collect debts. By the way, Aunt Gu, do you know if Uncle Chen is at home? I've been calling for a long time, but no one has answered. Madame Gu shook her head. I haven't seen anyone from him in the past 2 days, and I don't know if he has gone out. Ling Chu glanced at the chickens pecking in the yard, pushed open the wooden fence and walked in without saying anything. Ouch, Chen Dao, he is not at home. It's not good for you, a Taoist nun, to just go in like this, right? Aunt Gu frowned. Where did this Taoist nun come from? She didn't understand the slightest etiquette. Ling Chu pointed at the rotten vegetable leaves that the old hens were pecking at in the yard. These chickens are all being fed, so I guess no one is home. I've been shouting that no one has come out for a long time, so something must have happened. Zhou Wu, hurry in, have a look. Hearing Ling Chu's words, Madame Gu was not sure for a moment. Chen Dao, he is so old and is alone at home. If he is not in good health, no one will know if he faints in the house. It would be safer to let Zhou Wu go in and take a look. Seeing Ling Chu and Zhou Wu both walking into the courtyard, Aunt Gu hesitated and then walked over. If something happened to Chen Dao, she could help him. The three of them were about to leave the house when they suddenly heard a creak, the closed wooden door opened, and an old man with a wrinkled face walked out with a frown. Zhou Wu, didn't you just come here the day before yesterday? Why are you here again today? Uncle Chen, my mother can't afford to be sick anymore, and the family really can't afford the money to treat her. There is really no way. When you borrowed my 200 taels, you promised to pay me back in half a year. It's been a year and a half, it's time for you to pay me back, right? Zhou Wu, it's not that I don't want to pay back the money, it's just that I can't get it out. I'm a lonely old man, and my family has no income. I don't have any money, and I'm almost out of rice. Zhou Wu was so angry that he frowned, saying the same thing again. He came to beg for money several times, and Chen Dao, he did this every time. Uncle Chen, you are lying. You obviously have money, but you are unwilling to pay it back to me. Being accused of lying in front of outsiders, Chen Daohi's expression immediately changed from helpless to angry. Zhou Wu, this man can't be like this. When did I lie? This is the only dilapidated house left in my house. If you can't bear to see me sleeping on the street, take the house away. You can also take away a few chickens in the yard. Anyway, for a lonely old man like me, no one will feel sorry for me if I starve to death. As Chen Daohi spoke, the anger on his face disappeared, and instead he squatted on the ground and wiped away tears. Aunt Gu couldn't bear to look at it and said, Zhou Wu, what you Uncle Chen said is right. He is the only one left in his family, and he has no land or land. How can he get so much money? Zhou Wu was so angry that he almost laughed. You have no money? Your son's shop brings in a lot of money every month. He also bought a big house, called on his slaves and maids, and enjoyed good food and drink, but he relied on me for being unwilling to pay back the 200 taels. Zhou Wu, you can't just hurt my heart just because I can't give you the money. Everyone knows that my son has been in an accident for 2 or 3 years. If he is still alive, how can I not be able to give you the money? I'll give it back to you. Seeing Chen Daohi crying so miserably at such an old age, Aunt Gu couldn't bear it. Zhou Wu, you can't talk nonsense if you can't get money to treat your mother. Dahi's son has been in trouble for so long, why do you mention him? The noise here has attracted many people to stand in front of the wooden fence to watch the excitement. When they saw it, they all started talking about it. Chen Daohi's wife has been gone for several years. He has no daughter, only one son. 3 years ago, Chen Daohi's son Chen Yu found 2 partners to form a partnership and planned to open a silk and satin shop. He heard that the price of silk and satin in the south was cheap, so he took the money invested by his 2 partners and borrowed money from relatives and neighbors, and took a boat to the south to purchase goods. Unexpectedly, the boat Chen Yu was riding encountered a strong storm on the way. He accidentally fell into the river and was washed away by the strong waves. The result is that when the person is gone, the money he carries with him is also gone. Many people know this. Everyone can understand that Zhou Wu couldn't get the money and was worried, but he really shouldn't bring up Chen Yu to poke Chen Daohe's heart. Listening to everyone's accusations, Zhou Wu was shaking with anger. You have all been deceived. Chen Daohe's son is not dead. He opened a silk and satin shop in Huai Mansion, and his business was booming. He also bought a big house and lived like a slave. The day to call the maid. He pointed to the 4-room brick house on the right and said, Uncle Chen, don't think I don't know. Chen Yu bought all the Luche family's houses for you to live in. Seeing everyone following Zhou Wu's fingers in confusion, they looked towards Luche's house. A flash of anger flashed across Chen Daohe's wrinkled face. He sat down on the ground and cried loudly, Son, why are you leaving at such a young age, leaving me, a lonely old man with no one to rely on? Now that someone is bullying me, I can't survive. Ling Chu put away the system and was speechless about Chen Daohe. Was he planning to imitate the old lady who cried, made trouble, and hanged herself? She was crying so miserably, if she hadn't been systematic, she would have been deceived. The sound made her head hurt. Ling Chu simply took out a small hammer and swung it hard without saying a word. The loud noise sounded instantly, startling everyone. Even Chen Daohe was so shocked that he forgot to cry. When he followed the sound and saw the 2 locked door panels falling to the ground, Chen Daohe was even more startled. Ling Chu walked towards the house. Chen Daohe's wrinkled face was covered with clouds. Quickly got up from the ground and picked up the big broom beside him. Chen Daohe rushed towards Ling Chu, raised the broom in his hand and hit her the back of the head. Miss Ling, be careful. Zhou Wu was so frightened by this incident that his face changed drastically, and he wanted to rush forward to stop him. Thanks to book friends Xia, 202209140102452008, Xiangbu Ming, Jiangnan Fueao and other book friends for their monthly votes. Gratitude. I don't know why, Jiangnan Fueao, why I grow old, prose. BA, Liu Yana, China Fuse, 20230715743319, 202303061958333531. Recommended votes by book friends such as 20230601621658, Ixixi, Liuming, 2022062208170606. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 127. Chapter 127 Animals, Second Update. All kinds of screams suddenly sounded behind Ling Chu. Ling Chu was squatting on the ground picking up a small hammer. Everyone thought that the Taoist nun would be unable to avoid Chen Daohe's broom. Zhou Wu was almost shocked out of his mind. He just wanted to ask Miss Ling to come over and help him collect a debt, and he never thought that Chen Daohe would take action. If something happens to Miss Ling, I don't know if the commander of Jinyue will come to settle the score with him. Just when the broom was about to be smashed down, everyone thought that the Taoist nun's blood would be splashed on the spot, but they saw her turning sideways and swinging the small hammer in her hand towards Chen Daohe. Ah! Chen Daohe screamed. Bang! This was the sound of Chen Daohe falling to the ground after being knocked away. This unexpected turn of events shocked everyone in the yard. No one expected that the Taoist nun not only dodged Chen Daohe's broomstick, but also knocked him away with a hammer. Ling Chu ignored Chen Daohe, who was lying on the ground holding his stomach and wailing. He picked up the small hammer, turned around and walked back to the house. This Taoist nun's attack was too cruel. I'm afraid Chen Daohe was seriously injured. Some people felt that Ling Chu was ruthless. But there are also people who can't stand Chen Daohe. You can't blame the Taoist nun for being harsh. Chen Daohe's broomstick was quite powerful. If the Taoist nun didn't fight back and was hit on the back of the head, something big would happen. Zhou Wu saw that Ling Chu had already entered the room, and ignored everyone's comments and hurriedly followed him. When Chen Daohe saw this, he endured the pain and quickly got up from the ground. Some people saw that he was struggling to walk and couldn't bear it. After hesitating for a moment, he stepped forward and helped him walk into the house. Zhou Wu, I have told you that my family really can't come up with any money to repay you. Do you have to force me to death? Chen Daohe was supported by someone, and as soon as he crossed the threshold, he immediately started to accuse again. As soon as his voice fell, Ling Chu happened to hit the wall with a hammer. With the falling earth, a walnut box rolled out of the broken wall. It fell to the ground with a thud. A wad of banknotes was pulled out of the box. Zhou Wu was surprised when he saw the banknotes on the ground and was about to bend down to pick them up. Over there, Chen Daohe threw away the young man who was helping him, and rushed over in shock and anger to it away. However, Ling Chu blocked him back with a small hammer. Chen Daohe originally saw that she was just a Taoist nun who had no power to restrain a chicken, so he didn't take it to heart. But he didn't expect that he had exhausted all his strength and failed to break through the Taoist nun's seemingly light obstruction. He immediately became so angry that he yelled, "You Taoist nun, you stinky bitch!" Before Chen Daohe could finish his sentence, he was suddenly hit in the face with a hammer by Ling Chu, and he screamed immediately. The blood mixed with the two front teeth fell to the ground. The whole face was swollen. Chen Daohe was badly hit by the hammer, but no one sympathized with him. He borrowed 200 taels from Zhou Wu, and he was waiting for the money to save his life, but he clearly had a box of banknotes, but he was unwilling to pay back the money. How is this different from being a scoundrel? What's more, he insulted a Taoist nun like this. No one can bear this. Chen Daohe deserved to be beaten. Chen Daohe glanced at the big front teeth on the ground, raised his head and glared at Ling Chu bitterly. Although I was resentful, I didn't dare to verbally abuse him again. With his face and mouth swollen, and two more teeth missing, and in pain, Chen Daohe could only say vaguely, "Zhou Wu, give me back the banknote." Boom! Before Zhou Wu had time to speak, another loud noise came from inside the house. Everyone was startled again and turned their heads to look. It turned out to be a wooden bed placed against the wall. It was broken into large and small pieces of wood and scattered on the ground in a mess. The familiar little hammer next to the wooden block made everyone frown hard. Isn't this the little hammer in the Taoist nun's hand? That bed is made of Chen Dao wood, right? Why did the Taoist nun smash it? Even Zhou Wu looked at Ling Chu with a puzzled expression. Everyone was wondering, but Chen Daohe's heart suddenly became high. Why did this Taoist nun smash his bed? Could it be that she discovered something? No. Impossible. As soon as this thought arose, Chen Daohe suppressed it subconsciously. Just before he could put his mind at ease, he heard the Taoist nun say coldly, "Zhou Wu, move those bedboards away." Chen Daohe's heart tightened. "Zhou Wu, you have already got the money. Return the box to me and leave quickly." Zhou Wu had already taken back 200 taels from the box, and was about to pass the remaining silver notes to the box to Chen Daohe, but was unexpectedly snatched away by Ling Chu. Chen Daohe saw that his banknote had been robbed, and his lungs almost exploded with anger. "You, a Taoist nun, have gone too far. You came to my house and beat and smashed me, but you dared to rob me of money in public. Do you think I am a lonely old man who is easy to bully? If you don't return the banknote to me, I, Chen Daohe, will definitely report it to the official." Ling Chu sneered, "Report to the official? What a coincidence, that's what I had in mind." Chen Daohe was shocked and confused. Why did this Taoist nun make him feel frightened? He had to send the people away quickly, otherwise he would not be able to feel at ease. But how could Ling Chu let him get his wish? Zhou Wu, tie up Chen Daohe. What? Zhou Wu was stunned. He has already got the 200 taels, so they should leave. How could this Miss Ling ask him to remove the bedboard at one moment and then tie up Chen Daohe the next? What exactly is she going to do? Hearing that Ling Chu wanted to attack Chen Daohe, some people felt that she had gone too far. You, a Taoist nun, why are you still kidnapping people? Although Chen Daohe should not repay his debts, Zhou Wu has already got the money, so let's forget about it. You Taoist nun is still young. I'm afraid you don't know how to behave and do things. You have to leave a thin line so that we can meet each other in the future. Even though Chen Daohe is wrong, you can't go too far. Ling Chu sneered. She decided to let these people see who went too far. Seeing that Zhou Wu was still hesitant, Ling Chu simply prepared to take action himself. Then Chen Daohe's heart tightened, and he turned around and wanted to leave. However, Ling Chu knocked him unconscious with a hammer from behind. Seeing that he fainted, Ling Chu felt relieved and called Zhou Wu again, "Move that bedboard." I don't know if he was frightened by her violence, but Zhou Wu responded, quickly walked over and moved the bedboard away. Hey, why is there a cellar here? Bang bang bang. Why is there still any movement? Zhou Wugang wanted to go down to find out what was going on, but was unexpectedly stopped by Ling Chu. "Aunt Gu, could you please take the 2 ants down and bring out the girl from the cellar?" "What, there is a girl in the cellar?" Everyone looked at each other and thought how could it be possible, but there was another noise in the cellar. Ms. Gu looked surprised. After thinking about it, she asked 2 familiar women to go down to the cellar. When they got inside and saw the girl with messy clothes, her hands and feet tied and her mouth gagged, Aunt Hu and the 2 women understood why the Taoist nun didn't let Zhou Wu enter the cellar. This girl was probably ruined by that beast Chen Daohe. It's the last day of the month, so I'm asking for votes like crazy. Dear book friends, throw in all the tickets in your hands. End of this chapter. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 128. This girl from an unknown family was in the cellar by Chen Daohe. Ms. Gu and the 2 women came forward to untie her, and then pulled out the cloth that blocked her mouth. As soon as she was freed, the girl couldn't wait to ask, "Has Chen Daohe been arrested?" Madame Gu shook her head, "No, he was knocked unconscious." Dong Zhao looked disappointed. Just now she heard some faint noises coming from above in the cellar, and thought that Chen Daohe had been arrested. Seeing the 3 women looking at him curiously, Dong Zhao knelt down and kowtowed, "Thank you for saving me." Aunt Gu hurriedly stepped forward to help the man up. "Hey, get up quickly. It's not us you should be thankful for. It's Taoist Aunt Ling who asked us to come down and save you." "Taoist nun?" Dong Zhao looked puzzled. When he went to the cellar, he saw a girl wearing a Taoist robe. Although she didn't know why the Taoist nun saved her, Dong Zhao still knelt down and kowtowed, "Thank you so much for saving me." Ling Chu was about to step forward to help him, but the moment Dong Zhao raised his head, he saw Chen Daohe who had fainted next to him, and his blood immediately surged up. He got up in a swish, grabbed the bench beside him and rushed over. A scream instantly echoed through the sky. Chen Daohe was knocked awake, his whole body curled up in pain and wailing. Everyone was so frightened by this turn of events that they all gasped. This girl is too cruel. Ling Chu didn't even move his eyebrows or eyes, he was just useless when he was gone. This girl was ruined by Chen Daohe, and now it's just retaliation. Everyone thought that the girl would stop after hitting him once, but who knew that she hit Chen Daohe's knee with her backhand again. There was a clicking sound. Chen Daohe screamed and fainted from the pain. Everyone's expressions changed again. Chen Daohe's leg was probably broken by this blow. However, Dong Zhao didn't give up yet. He raised the bench and hit Chen Daohe on the head. At this time, Even Ling Chu couldn't help but frown. Hurriedly picked up the small hammer in his hand and blocked it. After coming back to his senses, someone couldn't help but ask Dong Zhao, "Girl, why are you so cruel? Are you going to kill Chen Daohe?" "Yes, I want to kill him. I, a good girl, was kidnapped by this beast's son, and my whole life was ruined by this old beast. Shouldn't he die?" Dong Zhao's heart was filled with hatred. Not long after she got engaged, her life was ruined at the beginning. Even if she killed Chen Daohe and his son, she still wouldn't be able to forgive her hatred. It turns out that this girl was kidnapped. No wonder she wanted to kill Chen Daohe like this. The person who just questioned him was so shocked that he shut his mouth. That Chen Daohe usually pretends to be a bitch, but he didn't expect that he could do such an unscrupulous thing. But some people doubted, didn't Chen Daohe's son fall into the river and die 3 years ago? Didn't you hear what Zhou Wu said just now, that Chen Yu is still alive and still opens a silk and satin shop in Huai Mansion? Ah, is it possible that Chen Yu faked his death, but actually stole everyone's money and secretly opened a shop in another place? Everyone here was talking in a hurry. Seeing that no one was stopping him, Dong Zhao took the bench and planned to kill Chen Daohe. When Ling Chu saw this, he quickly shouted, "Wait a minute." Dong Zhao paused and said, "Xiangwu, Chen Daohe deserves to die, but you can't do it. If you beat him to death, you may have to pay for it with his life." "I'm not afraid. Anyway, I have been destroyed and I don't want to live at all. After I beat him to death, I will pay for him with my life." Ling Chu had a good impression of this girl. Seeing that she was determined to die, he couldn't help but persuade her, "Don't do stupid things. You are still young. It is not worth losing your life for such a beast. You are just being killed. It's not a big deal if a wild dog bites him. If you kill him directly, it will be too easy for him. It's better to live and watch the beast get the punishment he deserves." Even though it was only a few words, Dong Zhao couldn't help but her eyes turned red for a moment. Ever since she was kidnapped, she has long been determined to die. The reason why he didn't die head-on was because he had been waiting for the opportunity to take revenge. But the fairy girl was right, beating Chen Daohe to death would be too easy for him. Chen Daohe's son Sunjin was crippled by her and his legs were broken. What she should do was to go to the Yamen to report his crimes. She had to live well and see with her own eyes how Chen Daohe lived a life worse than death in prison. Seeing that the girl listened to the advice, Ling Chu felt relieved. At this time, 7 or 8 people poured into the courtyard. "How did I hear that Chen Daohe's son is not dead? Is it true?" Chen Daohe, who had just woken up from a coma, changed his expression when he saw these people. He wanted to pretend to be dead, but it was too late. These people who rushed in were shocked when they saw Chen Daohe's miserable condition. Thinking about the rumors just now, these people couldn't help but feel angry. "Chen Yu is really not dead. Your son tricked his own life and took our money to Huai Mansion to open a shop. Is this true? You and your son are still not human beings. That's all my family's money. You just took it away, causing me to be beaten and scolded by my wife every day. Where's that Chen Yu? Let him come out and give us an explanation." Among these people, except for 2 who were the partners Chen Yu originally found, the others also lent money to Chen Yu. "Who said my son is still alive? He fell into the river 3 years ago. Don't you all know this?" Seeing that Chen Daohe refused to admit it, someone couldn't help but ask Zhou Wu, "I heard that you said that Chen Yu was not dead. Is this true?" Chen Yu defrauded all these people of their money, especially the 2 partners, who almost lost everything. Zhou Wu couldn't help but feel sympathy. "It's true, Chen Yu is not dead." Someone saw Ling Chu in a Taoist robe and thought, "Are you the fairy girl who helped Zhou Wu recover his money? Can I also ask you to help me collect my debt from Chen Yu? I am willing to pay 50 taels as a reward." Another partner also said quickly, "I will also pay 50 taels and ask fairy girl to help me collect my debt." These two people were Chen Yu's original partners, and were defrauded of nearly 1,000 taels, which was almost their entire family wealth. For this matter, both of them were complained by their families for 3 years. Ling Chu hasn't agreed yet whether he wants to help. Chen Daohe glared at her and Zhou Wu with resentment. It was these two people who ruined his business. You two male prostitutes stole the shit, you will die badly. Snapped. Zhou Wu was so angry that he rushed over and slapped Chen Daohe hard. It's okay to scold him. If the commander of the Jinyi guards knew about this insult to Miss Ling, their whole family would probably have no way to survive. Zhou Wu wanted to strangle Chen Daohe to death. Ling Chu glanced at Chen Daohe coldly. Originally, she had no intention of meddling in other people's affairs. But if she stood idly by and watched, wouldn't the scolding be in vain? This is the third update today. The competition is too fierce at the end of the month, so throw in all the tickets you have. Don't worry, I'm holding the lid of the pot, so I'm not afraid of you smashing it, haha. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 129. After Ling Chu agreed to help the two men collect their debts, other debtors also came forward to ask for help. Ling Chu all responded. Anyway, one person is asking for it, and a group of people are also asking for it. After Zhou Wu took back the 200 taels that belonged to the box he had smashed out of the wall, the remaining large and small silver notes totaled only more than 100 taels. Far from enough to repay the money that Chen Yu defrauded. Ling Chu simply turned on the system again and scanned Chen Daohe's house. But except for the box that was smashed out, there was nothing else of value in Chen Daohe's house. Ling Chu frowned. She couldn't find the money. Wouldn't she have to go to the Huai mansion to find Chen Yu in order to help everyone get their debts back? No, what did Zhou Wu say just now? Zhou Wu, was Chen Daohe's son buying the house next to him? Zhou Wu nodded, that's right. Ling Chu looked at the 4-room large brick house next to him and walked over. Behind him, Zhou Wu and others hurriedly followed him. Chen Daohe's face changed with anxiety, and he got up and wanted to catch up. But his legs had been broken by Dong Zhao, and whenever he moved, he was so painful that he broke into a cold sweat, and there was nothing he could do to stop him. Bang bang bang. Zhou Wu and the others knocked for a long time, but no one opened the door. Didn't Zhou Wu say that Chen Yu is in Huai mansion? There is no one in the house, so no one will answer the door if you knock on the door. That's right, I'm so angry that I'm dizzy. What should I do? Break the door and go in to look for him. Without the key, of course we have no choice but to knock on the door. Chen Yu's two partners were defrauded of the most money, and they are the two who are the most angry now. The two of them rolled up their sleeves and rushed towards the door together. Ling Chu's mouth twitched when he saw it. The two doors looked thick, and it would be difficult for the two of them to open them with their own bodies. Sure enough, the two people's shoulders turned red from the collision, but the door still didn't move at all. Let me do it. Everyone was speechless. This Taoist nun looks like she can't lift her shoulders and carry her hands. What use can she do? Ling Chu saw everyone's looks and said nothing. He just took out a small hammer and smashed the door. Boom. 2 door panels fell to the ground, raising a cloud of smoke and dust. A bunch of eyeballs fell out of shock. After the smoke dispersed, Ling Chu slowly walked inside and turned on the system. He also took out the tortoise shell and 3 copper coins, preparing to use them to pretend to tell fortunes for a while. Having just taken a few steps toward the main courtyard, Ling Chu glanced at the system and paused. Suddenly turned around and ran towards the wing on the right. The people following behind were still shocked by the 2 door panels that she had smashed. Seeing the Taoist nun suddenly running away, I didn't know what happened, so I subconsciously chased after her. Ling Chu saw that the door to the right wing was tightly closed, and he was about to smash it with the hammer in his hand. Unexpectedly, the door was suddenly opened from the inside. A man who smelled of alcohol and had drunken eyes was awakened by the banging on the door just now. He came over to open the door in a daze. Unexpectedly, as soon as the door opened, before he could see the person clearly, he was met with a kick. This man never dreamed that he would be kicked away just as he opened the door. She is still a Taoist nun. Just as he was about to get up and curse, the Taoist nun stepped down mercilessly as soon as he moved. Immediately let out a cry of pain. Kai Ling didn't even look at it at first, stepping on his stomach and crossing over, heading straight to a cellar indoors. The man's expression changed, and he was about to rush over to stop him, but was surrounded by people behind him. Okay, Chen Yu, you are indeed not dead. Chen Yu, you bastard, you defrauded my family of all their money and caused me misery. Where is the money? Give me the money quickly. If you don't pay me the money, I won't be done with you. Ling Chu didn't care about the commotion behind him and hurried into the cellar. Mrsku, who was following behind, changed her face when she thought about Dong Zhao. She hurriedly greeted the two women and followed her down to the cellar. Seeing the tragic situation in the cellar, the three women's faces turned pale. What a crime! Ling Chu heard the noise and turned around to see Mrsku and the others. He pointed at the girl hanging from the beam and said, "Go and rescue that girl quickly." And Ku did not refuse, and worked together with the two women to rescue the girl in white. Ling Chu hurried to the wall and reached out to poke the nose of the girl in blue lying on the ground. Even though he guessed the result when he saw the blood on the girl's forehead, Ling Chu couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. This girl is really out of breath. Sighing, Ling Chu stood up with a heavy heart. The girl in white over there opened her eyes, hugged Aunt Gu and cried loudly. Seeing her crying heartbreakingly, the three women were filled with anger. Chen Daohe and his son are simply beasts. Ling Chu remained silent, did not come forward to comfort him, turned around and left the cellar with a cold face. Outside, Chen Yu, surrounded by a group of people, was struggling to defend himself. Hey, listen to me, I didn't cheat my death. I was indeed swept into the river by the big waves. I thought I was dead. I didn't expect that I was lucky and grabbed a floating board, so I didn't die at the bottom of the river. Since you're not dead, why haven't you come back in the past 3 years? Well, although I was lucky enough to survive, I hit my head after falling into the river. My memory is gone. I can't even remember who I am. I can't find my way home. Did you lie? You didn't have any injuries on your head. Since you have no memory, why are you back now? Hey, it's not like I saw a doctor later and the injury was cured, and then I remembered what happened before. The money I gave you to buy the goods at the beginning, please return it to us quickly. Yes, pay back the money, pay back the money. Chen Yu cursed in his heart, you want money, go dreaming. But there was a look of helplessness on his face. I was rushed into the river by the big waves, and all the banknotes were washed away by the big waves. They are all gone. Seeing everyone's expressions change, Chen Yu immediately swore, don't worry, although the banknote is gone, I swear that when I make money in the future, I will definitely return it to you. Ling Chu twitched the corner of his mouth, no money? Hit the hammer in your hand against the wall. Boom. The green bricks fell and a large box rolled out. A stack of large and small banknotes were scattered on the floor. Chen Yu's face changed drastically, you. Ling Chu smiled apologetically, but the smile didn't reach his eyes, sorry, my hand slipped. You. Boom. A half-person high celadone vase next to it shattered on the floor, and silver ingots rolled out from it. Ah, sorry, I didn't stand firm. Chen Yu's face was so angry that he twisted his face, and he rushed towards her, you Taoist nun. You, don't come here, don't hit me. Ling Chu turned around and dodged in a panic, but kicked a silver ingot towards Chen Yu. With a twist of his feet, Chen Yu, who was chasing after him, tilted his body and bumped into another celadone vase. There was a crisp sound, and another pile of silver rolled out. The incident happened so quickly that everyone was stunned for a moment. After they came to their senses, they rushed towards the banknotes. The scene suddenly became chaotic. Suddenly a cold voice sounded at the door, "Miss Ling." Thanks to book friends such as A Fat Eagle, Eagle in the Wind, Silver Star, 201710062015571261/2017119072218412, and UNU for their monthly votes. Thanks to book friends such as 20230601621658, 202303061958333531, The Witch of That Year, Why I Grow Old, 2017071717281687, Silver Star, 854-857, Pros. B.A., Jiangnan Fueo, Tian Yulan, 202206220817060076, Mom Who Loves Traveling and other book friends for their recommendation votes. July is over. Thank you to all the book friends who have supported this book. It is because of your support that I can get to where I am today step by step. Thanks for having you. I hope that everyone will stick with me in the coming August. Let's work hard together. I made a fortune by raiding houses in ancient times. Author, Half-Life Calligraphy. Chapter 130. Ling Chu turned around following the sound, and his eyes flashed with surprise when he saw the figure at the door. Why did you encounter this murderess again? Even though he was slandering in his heart, he couldn't offend the golden thigh. Ling Chu raised a smile and stepped forward to greet him. I've met Mr. Ning. Ning Chui. I looked away from those who were trying to grab the banknotes and glanced at her. Miss Ling, what are you doing? It's nothing, I'm just helping others collect debts. Ning Chui. I endured it again and again, but still couldn't hold it back. Are you so short of money? Ling Chu almost rolled his eyes. Isn't this a clear-cut question? All the money in her house was plundered by his men. How can she not be short of money? For the sake of his golden thigh, Ling Chu did not fall out. Your Excellency, you also know the situation in my family. If I don't come out to make some money, I will be in trouble with the northwest wind. Ning Chui. I was silent for a moment. It seemed that this matter was impossible to handle. By the way, why are you here, sir? I was working nearby, and I heard from my subordinates that there was trouble happening here, so I stopped by to take a look. Ning Chui. I never expected that he would meet this girl Ling by such a coincidence. His eyes fell on her for a moment, and he subconsciously wanted to ask her why she was wearing a Taoist robe. Just as he was about to speak, he realized that the question was a bit abrupt, so he swallowed it back. Are you done here? Ling Chu didn't answer and asked, Sir, do you need help with something? Ning Chui. I didn't say anything, just nodded lightly. Ling Chu knew that this was not the place to talk. Excuse me, sir. Please wait for me. The money has been found and the debt has been collected, but her reward still has to be collected. The people over there who were snatching the banknotes all stood uneasily when they saw Ning Chui and the Jin Yaiwei behind him. Then Chen Yu was so shocked that his face turned pale. No one else knew Ning Chui, but he had seen the commander leading people to ransack his home from a distance. What makes Chen Yu even more desperate is, how could the Taoist nun know this murderer? Are these Jinyi guards here to raid his home? Chen Yu regretted so much that his intestines were green at the moment. It was enough that he defrauded so much money, but why did he kidnap 3 girls in such a crazy way? He has lived well in Hawaii Mansion these 3 years, why should he come back? Also, he obviously came back secretly, and no one else knew about it except his father. Could it be that these Jinyi guards had been secretly eyeing him for a long time, and now they came to his door? Just when Chen Yu was frightened and uneasy, Ling Chu walked back. Have you got all the money Chen Yu owes you? Everyone nodded. Thank you, fairy girl, we got all our money back. These people were full of gratitude to Ling Chu. If it weren't for this Taoist nun, all the money they had defrauded by Chen Yu would have been wasted. Chen Yu watched the money being snatched away by everyone. Although his heart was bleeding, he could see that the guards in uniform at the door did not dare to make any move. Xiangwu, here are 50 taels, please take them. Zhou Wu felt lucky that nothing happened to Miss Ling. Seeing that Zhou Wu had given the reward, Chen Yu's 2 partners and several other people who asked Ling Chu to help collect debts also paid the reward. Firstly, he was grateful, and secondly, he was afraid of the imperial guards at the door. No one dared to refuse the reward promised to Ling Chu. This is what she deserves, and Ling Chu didn't refuse it. After collecting the banknote, Ling Chu turned to Ning Chui and said, Master Ning, this Chen Yu has defrauded a lot of money in the name of opening a shop together. Also, Chen Daohe and his son kidnapped 3 good girls and imprisoned them in the cellar, and even forced one of them to death. Can Lord Liaoning hand them over to Dali Temple for disposal? Chen Yu suddenly collapsed on the ground. After getting drunk last night, he had no idea that there was another girl who couldn't bear the humiliation and committed suicide by hitting the wall. Ning Chui, I didn't expect that there would be another murder. He glanced at Chen Yu coldly and waved to the Jin Yiwei behind him. Soon Chen Daohe and his son were taken away. The Dongzhao and the other humiliated girl, Ling Chu did not let them show up in front of others. After all, people are afraid of words. Dali Temple still needs to find out the origin of this case. In addition, the 2 girls are both from Huifu, so Dali Temple still needs to send someone to send them back. Ling Chu asked Xiaji to set up a carriage and sent them both to Dali Temple. The girl who committed suicide by hitting the wall, Ling Chu also asked Ning Chui to send someone to send her body to Dali Temple. The Dali Temple will then send people to notify the families of the 3 girls. After finishing the matter, Ling Chu followed Ning Chui out of Chen Yu's yard. Out of everyone's sight, Ling Chu asked, Sir, do you need help with anything? That's right, but I can't tell you what the specific matter is right now. Please also ask the girl not to leave the capital recently. I will let someone inform you then. After a pause, Ning Chui added, Don't worry, your help won't be in vain. Although Ning Chui didn't say what it was, Ling Chu could understand it. Given his status, what he does must be sensitive and cannot be disclosed at will. Since there was money to be made, Ling Chu would certainly not refuse and nodded in agreement. After saying goodbye to Ning Chui, Ling Chu took Xiaji back to his home. Outside the capital, a small, ruined village. A dozen guards and a group of men in black were fighting in darkness. Su Gao was fighting with 3 men in black. There was an ancient well not far behind him. He didn't pay attention and focused on fighting fiercely. Even though they were 1 against 3, he was not afraid at all. With his ability, he believed that he would be able to kill these 3 men in black in a short time. But for some reason, he suddenly felt dizzy and the scene in front of him became blurry. Although his hands were still swinging instinctively, the sword in his hands seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds, and his legs were also a little heavy and weak. What made his hair stand on end was that the back of his head seemed to be pulled by someone, and his whole body leaned back. Be careful, Zhou Qing was fighting with several other men in black. He saw Su Gao in danger from the corner of his eye and hurriedly shouted in his direction. Su Gao suddenly felt that his eyesight went dark, and he was about to fall into the dry well behind him. At the critical moment, his chest suddenly felt like it was being burned by a fire. The heat made him suddenly clear-headed. The moment he fell into the ancient well, he desperately grabbed a protruding stone on the wall of the well with his hands. Before he could breathe a sigh of relief, his dangling feet were suddenly grabbed and pulled down. Su Gao lowered his head subconsciously and saw that there was no one else in the dry well. No one? Who is pulling his feet? At that moment, even though he had always considered himself an expert and bold person, he was frightened and broke into a cold sweat. His temples were throbbing. At the bottom of the dry well, there are many sharp bamboo branches that are densely intertwined. If he fell, he would definitely die on the spot. Su Gao felt that the force was still grabbing his feet and pulling them down, but he couldn't break free with his own strength. Just when he was about to fall, fortunately Zhou Qing arrived with other guards and dealt with the man in black. Several people worked together to pull him up from the dry well. I received a notice from the platform that from August 1st to 4th today, I will participate in the PK list competition with other books. This PK is very important, as it is related to the next recommendation position. I hope you will give me your strong support. Whether it can pass the PK depends on your votes. Come on.